It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Presented by the Choctaw Casino and Resort in Durant. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another episode of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com. As I think others will try and duplicate, but what is it? They'll try and duplicate, but they'll never duplicate? Replicate? Is that how it goes? I guess I should turn everybody else on as we get started. What is that saying?
Often imitated, never duplicated.
Duplicated.
Why would you want to imitate this podcast, though? There's no formula. I mean, how are you going to be? Okay, let's do a Sooner Scoop type podcast. What even is that? Nobody knows.
It varies.
We're just going to talk
from week to week.
Constantly go off the rails about things that have nothing to do with anything. We're just going to do that. We don't even have segments.
We are getting ready to enter the podcast wars of 2019, apparently.
It's not going to be much of a war.
Oh, come on. It'll be fun.
It's not going to be much of a war.
So you're just going to get everyone to hate you now.
I don't care. It's not going to be a war.
I would agree. I don't even know if it'd be a battle.
It's not going to be a battle.
Yeah.
A skirmish.
I'll put our podcast up against theirs, and we can compare if we really want to do that.
And we're talking about, major news outlets. Everybody's getting podcast
Everybody's
happy.
into the podcast
like podcasting.
game.
What is it? This will be our 5th year doing
Everybody's in the podcast
unofficial
game
40.
these days.
And I think like Lee Benson and his brother do a good podcast. Was that like Inside Everest or something like that?
Like you listen to it.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm giving other podcasts
That's weird.
about OU football out, but I'm trying to be a nice guy.
F*** 'em.
Okay.
We start early.
Hold on. I now have a button on my browser.
Just leave it in there. Let everybody
Mark.
hear me say that.
Oh, they know what you said. Trust me.
See, that's the whole point of it. Like, why even bother? Because we only block one word, so we know exactly what he said.
It's a great
Because
question.
maybe
It's 2019.
maybe some company wants to advertise with a CEO that doesn't care for the F-bomb.
Well, that person's a loser. How about that?
That's not going to help our chances.
Podcast over. Bonuses are definitely over for Eddie.
I have a feeling people will listen or not.
You
Eddie,
really don't get business, do you?
Huh?
You really don't get business.
I
do
really
you?
don't care.
Eddie, are you
People
moving?
are going to listen if they
or-
listen.
I feel like
want to listen.
Eddie's in one of those states.
No, I think it's ridiculous that we have to act like that. We aren't real people and don't talk like normal people. And
It's been
not
a while
not
since you've
this.
just
Not
dropped
this.
multiple F-bombs.
I've cussed one time today. Cussed one time.
I'm just saying you've been
as
holding
a,
them up. You've been
as a
holding
whole,
up.
No, as a whole,
I fear.
I'm not just saying on this podcast. I'm talking about everywhere. This PC culture that we live in is ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Absolutely ridiculous.
What a mountain to die on.
Eddie's gone full old with that take.
Well, it's just ridiculous
That's
that
like-
people.
that sounds like my
people-
dad.
The only people that get upset about cursing right now are actual losers.
I don't know if I'd
I
go
don't
that
want to
far.
hear language. I took my kids out to training camp, and I heard some coaches cussing. Don't come back. It's football. It's ridiculous.
I'd like to hear some cussing in training camp.
Oh, some of those guys are true artists. I mean, Mike Stoops, some of the stuff he would put together, that was gold.
There was no topping Bobby Jack Wright. He was the master. I mean, he was. And the thing about Bobby Jack Wright that was so great is he wouldn't even have to cuss. Like, he would cuss. Jackie Shipp would cuss. Mark Mangino, my God, what a filthy mouth. But Bobby Jack Wright would just demean you. And he wouldn't even, like, Brett Bauer's official name, I think we've talked about this before, was just dummy. He would just, after every play, hey, dummy. I mean, he'd just wear him out.
Why was he spending so much time yelling at scout team guys?
Well,
He was a big recruit out of Florida.
You got to try and develop talent.
I think
that's when they were doing that.
That's probably
at
where they
Oklahoma.
went wrong. They were spending too much time developing guys that never developed.
Well, I would say the mistake would have been not giving up in a proper time to know that
you get 2 weeks.
This is a guy that's going to show up 3 years after he graduated at a pro day.
That's true.
Hey, guys, this was systemic. I used to talk about this in recruiting when they would recruit guys that you could told them 6 months in advance, you're not going to get that guy. And they would keep trying and working, and you're like, you're wasting your time. My number one example, John Houston, the kid from Sarah, a 5-star linebacker from Sarah.
Glory days.
Yeah, you're not going to get that guy, guys. Like, I don't care how long you try. I don't care how good Tim Kish's relationship is. He's not coming to Oklahoma. And I think he did take an official, if I remember right.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And everybody got, Josh, I'm hearing stuff. There's other people reporting. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And I was like, I'm not going to either. I'm not interviewing that kid. I'm not spending my time on that kid. Nothing's going to come. And nothing would be better for our site than for me to do that interview and try to pretend that's a real story, but it's just not. And so I'm on a rant there, but I mean, again, this was a systemic problem of spending too much time on a lost cause.
Josh just used the word systemic more times in a podcast than in the history of podcasting there.
Boom.
It'll be imitated in the podcast wars. It'll be imitated.
Yeah. We're listening, people. When you start using systemic, we know where you got it.
We won't be listening.
That's fair. Neither will anybody else.
So one of the people that's joining the podcast wars had a headline that was kind of interesting. That was that kind of hinted that it was a bad weekend at Oklahoma. Josh, would you like to address? Was it a bad weekend at Oklahoma because they didn't get any commitments?
I don't know who's in that. I don't know who came from that podcast war. It's one of those things where you don't cover. Okay, you don't. Well, that's that you don't cover recruiting, and so you think it's either commitments good, no commitments bad. Like there's no middle ground, and that's just not how this works. Somebody asked me today in our board chat, which I'm about halfway through for anybody listening that wants to go check that out. Someone said, Josh, how many commitments do you think end up coming out of this event for Oklahoma from the 2020, 2021, and 2022 class? I could easily get to 12, and I think 15 is possible. I don't know what else you have to say beyond that. That's.
Is anyone else distracted by his vacuum cleaner?
Maybe a little bit.
Damn it. It's all right. So my cleaning ladies are here. We're doing this on a Tuesday. I don't usually do it on a Tuesday. I forgot when we set this up.
You plural? My God, how much do you make? I should know this.
What are their names?
No.
Gloria?
Linda.
There's no way that somebody that cleans your house
100%.
named Linda.
Ice.
I think
her
it's probably
name is not Linda, all right? If you're listening, Ice.
It's probably Louisia.
Not Linda.
Probably Louisia.
Yes.
So bad. So
What?
bad. No, and the reason it's plural is
Linda's?
it's summertime. No, it's summertime.
Oh, she has to bring kids with her.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Child labor. Mm-hmm. Ice.
No wonder you don't want them to build a wall. You want to keep your house clean.
Wow.
Is this racist? Yes, I think that was.
I think this whole segment borders real close when Linda was immediately frowned upon.
Well, I just don't believe that's her name.
That's her American
you think
name.
Josh is, you just.
Does
Does Trace Linda know where you're moving to? Is she going to be your new cleaning lady?
Yes.
Trace Linda's.
It's an interesting conversation to have when I'm currently sharing the house with, and there are limitations in conversation.
God, it'd be so awesome if you had a speaker like playing us.
I'm just. This is uncomfortable as I've ever been during the podcast.
Good.
I've heard that Linda stopped. Is she trying to find out what's being talked about and if she's being talked about?
And I'm concerned about that very much because it's not running right now. So I don't know.
What happened?
where
I mean,
were we?
I thought you had an automatic.
Yeah, the robot.
No, I do. Guys,
That can only do so much. You don't understand how big this house is, Carey.
Oh, I've been there. It's big. I mean, those hand-carved wooden floors.
Oh, Lord.
Very difficult to reach in all the spots.
Unbelievable. No, we
were
have
talking
the
about whether it was you were talking about how many
weekend.
commitments will
Thank
come out
God.
of this weekend.
Save me, rescue me. This is
Hey,
awful.
blame Trace Lindas on this. It's not our fault.
No, so yeah, like I said, you're talking about a lot of guys that could come out of this weekend. A lot of, especially in 2021 and 2022, I think Oklahoma really laid some good groundwork. Guys like Gentry Williams, probably the guy that if you were going to say, oh, you could only have one guy from the in-state class in the next two classes, who would be that guy? I think Gentry Williams would be the guy they want.
You think he's a 5-star?
I think he's in the conversation. Like when you mix 5'11", 6 foot as a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, and runs already some of the best track times in the country. I mean, that's hard to go with. And then you watch him on tape, and the kid makes plays against Booker T's level of competition as a high school freshman. I mean, that's hard to combat. And like I said, he and I talked some last night. I got a very strong impression that Oklahoma is going to be tough to beat for him. I think he really liked that. And that's what this is about. When you want to say commitment's good, commitment's bad, that kid hadn't even started his sophomore year of high school yet. And you're going to say, oh, well, it wasn't a success because a guy like Gentry Williams didn't commit, or a guy like Kendall Daniels from Beggs didn't commit, or whatever. Man, that's just not very realistic. These guys want to look around. They want to take their time. But you laid a bunch of good, like I was going to avoid saying groundwork yet again.
Planting the seeds.
Yeah, I mean, groundwork and systemic. They were going to be everywhere in the next few pods. But no, you have the chance to really establish yourself with those guys and start to build those relationships that end up with commitments like Andrew Rame or other in-state guys or other guys from Texas, Raleek Brown from California. This is how these things work. Alabama doesn't land a 5-star the day they start recruiting them. To land the elite guys, you got to wait.
And what I thought the best thing of the weekend was the guys showed up. How many times have we seen big names supposed to arrive and then there's transportation issues or they get sick or something changes and it just
blown tire
and it fizzles before it even gets a chance to start because the top dogs weren't actually there. But you look at the videos, you look at the photos, and we've talked to a bunch of them. You can tell they got the kids that they wanted the most to attend, and that's how you're able to lay the groundwork and get it going. If they don't show up at an event like this, it's not like you can't overcome that, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier now that you've already got that foundation there and a chance to spend time with the family and the coaches in that type of laid-back setting.
Well, and it's a positive sign that those guys want to come because it's always and I know people will always overreact to a guy not showing up when he was supposed to, and sometimes there's completely valid reasons why a guy doesn't make that trip. But these were all unofficial visits. All their families, these kids, they were paying for it out of their own pocket. And for Oklahoma to get all those guys there, and the list we had, that we were pretty much finalized on that list as of Wednesday of last week. They still added Clayton Smith, a 4-star linebacker from Texas High, which has not been a traditionally strong area for Oklahoma to recruit. I mean, you get John Michael McGee, I believe 2012, and that's the only one I know of.
Same here, yep.
So, I mean, it's a school that you can go back for those that kind of know OU Texas. You've got guys like Nathan Vasher was a Texas High guy. I mean, there's some good players that came out of Texas High. Ryan Mallett was a Texas High guy. So, I mean, there are a lot of good players, and he looks to be the next one. And I've talked to him at length. We've got a story up on the front page right now. He loved his visit. He will come back, told me as much as he liked it, his mom liked it more. So, Oklahoma getting that guy on campus, sure, they didn't get a commitment, but they started that process of, okay, now he wants to come back for a game. Okay, now we're going to talk to him about maybe being a official visitor for the spring game next year, which is a time when Oklahoma has a track record of landing a lot of commitments.
In a way, do you think that, Josh and Bob, you think this has been a little bit misrepresented as far as the barbecue goes, and maybe this is more, should fans just look at it maybe more so as an open house as opposed to a quote-unquote recruiting weekend? Would that,
like an official recruiting
right,
weekend.
right. I think that there's just a lot of people that have, I don't know, maybe the whole weekend as a whole has been misrepresented in that I think when people think, oh, this is a huge recruiting weekend, they automatically think, oh, they're going to get 5 or 6 commitments Sunday night, and you're going to see eyeballs all weekend, which is still the case in a way. But I think more so like you see, people that don't even work in the football offices at the barbecue with their families. All the kids are out there from the coaches' kids and stuff like that. So I almost think it's like more of a end of the year open house, if you will. Like you would see at like an elementary school at the beginning of the season, or at the beginning of a semester or the beginning of a school year, as opposed to a quote-unquote big, massive recruiting weekend.
See, the reason it got that rep, though, was because Lincoln Riley brought it his first year.
Sure, yeah.
He's 2 months into the job, and he's getting Jace McClellan, Jeffrey Carter, Jalen Redmond, all within a 2-hour period. Daryl Simpson commits a couple of weeks later. So everyone was programmed to believe that, wait a minute, when Riley says it's a big weekend, it's not just a big weekend in the future. It's an immediate gratification weekend, and we're going to get a lot of eyes. We're going to get a lot of commits. And now we're starting to see him come back to the norm because that's just not usual. That's not how things go. You don't get 4 or 5 commits in one weekend. That's not how the game is played now.
Sure.
So now you're
isn't it fair to say also that this is a, especially with the younger guys, these are more elite kids that are coming in overall that aren't going to be making decisions on the fly like this at this point in
when it comes to 2021 and 2022, yes. But I think there were definitely a lot of fans and a lot of readers that expected 2020 to add at least 1 or 2 names, and a little bit surprised that nothing happened in that regard, and a little bit surprised that really doesn't feel like it's imminent. You like maybe, but you're sort of wondering, wait a minute, why aren't these guys jumping? And if they're not jumping, then is it time to start looking at your other options?
Well, and I explained it to people this way, Josh. Like, we were prepared for the potential for a few commitments. Like, the guys that we thought could pop. You guys were on the ball. You were ready to run the stuff. We were all kind of wondering, is it going to happen? Eddie was ready on social if something happened. We were all kind of just waiting for eyeballs and trying to put all the pieces together. And it didn't happen. I would say that, from that standpoint, yeah. I mean, if you want to say there was some disappointment, it was that there could have been a commitment or 2 or 3 that didn't happen. Now, I don't know if you can – feel free to jump in here. I don't know if you can call that not closing or, just kids not being ready. But I mean, to me, that's the only real disappointment out of it. It's not like you lost ground with any of those guys, I don't think.
And then what you have to start remembering, and someone brought it up on the board too, is you remember last year's spring game, and you had 7 commits in 3 days. Only 2 are actually Sooners. Jamal Morris, Theo Weeks.
Yeah.
You can have a big weekend, but then it can fizzle going down the road because those kids made an impulsive decision. They knew they wanted to look at other schools, and then it all disappears anyway. So sometimes that's okay that you didn't have it now. You get it a month or 2 later.
R.J. Henderson does not appreciate this characterization of him making rash and poor decisions.
Can't believe things haven't turned out better for him.
Did you see that? Did you read the quote from Mullen on RJ that someone posted on the board? That quote is worth it. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't know what to say. Read it. It's just what?
He's gonna come, but we don't know when. It should be by the first of the school year, but we're not sure. What is that? I don't understand any of that.
Well, and it makes sense when you remember on top of all of that Dan Mullen is a central figurehead when it comes to character building.
Oh, well, I mean, he learned from Urban. I mean, a true legend of humanitarianism.
Okay, so the defensive tackle, you talking? I'm trying to think of his worst offenders.
Who, Mullen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sweat's obviously. Now, but I mean, Sweat's one of those guys that's kind of like Mixon. Like, it was terrible, it's awful, but there's nothing else to support that being anything other than an anomaly. And I'm not saying anything about that, but also Mullen was there for all the Hernandez stuff. I mean, he was involved at Florida when all that crap was going on. So he bears some of that.
It's hard to throw that on an assistant, though. I mean, it's never really been done.
You're right. Now
Mullen. When you're Tom Herman and you're involved with somebody like Zach Smith and you're talking about going to strip clubs on official recruiting visits and that stuff is kind of like it's a little bit of a different bag. Like, that's just shady. You're just kind of shady.
Yeah, I think that probably. If you coach in the SEC, I think you're pretty shady. I think it just comes with the territory.
I remember way back in the day, was this you telling me this? Or maybe it was, I think, like, Brent Venables went out of his way to tell me one time, hey, ran into some people and they knew you. I was with some high school coaches, and we were at one of those bars where the girls, don't wear a lot of clothes, like Twin Peaks or something. He's like, I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention that if that gets out there. And they're like, wow, I maybe think Brent Venables is a super nice guy. Like, he's afraid that people are going to know he went to Twin Peaks. Like, he is not going to strip clubs on visits.
He has the hooker come to him in his hotel room. That's a smart move on his part.
All right, there it is.
See, I was thinking of a different story where a group of high school coaches I knew after a big win in the playoffs went to they went to an establishment where they wore considerably less clothes and enjoyed their victory.
A night trip situation, if you will.
Yes, I would almost put it exactly at that particular establishment.
Hey, listen, if you come up to the city area and you want a football game, you can do whatever you want after the game, right? I might even go with you.
Come down here and take down Norman North. Eddie will get the first lap dance at Sugar's for you.
I couldn't tell you that I wasn't there. That would probably be a lie.
There you go.
Wow. That's how Josh became Josh.
The greatest part about it was...
Way to go, Tom Herman.
The school's bus was not like a school bus, but like the school, like
the coach's bus, the coach bus.
Like the big Ford Econo line was in the parking lot with the school's name.
Duncan
on the
Public
side
Schools.
It wasn't parked next door at Whitewater. I'll tell you that.
That is a fact. It was. If it would have been the day, it was probably just a little bit before camera phones, but if not, it would have been a great picture, and I could have had free food with these coaches at any point from that point forward.
I would imagine that's a situation that you can no longer get away with, even in today's world, even though it wasn't too long ago.
Yep. Yeah, that was about 10 years ago. So we know it was in Oklahoma City. Know it was about 10 years ago. Everybody put your thinking hats on.
Big victory.
Big victory.
You would never guess it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's Bob Wilson.
You know that
We're
story,
from
don't
Oklahoma
you,
City,
Eddie?
and he wouldn't go there, and they probably weren't winning games 10 years ago. Yeah, they certainly weren't winning games 10 years ago. 2009.
I'm not
The
interested
excellence
in
of Putnam City North football stopped and started after 2005. Had a Heisman Trophy winner, couldn't even get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Senior year. Not my senior year.
It's an indictment.
Yeah. They need a better coach.
Oh, God.
The bitterness.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was that much bitterness there.
Not much of a fan.
I had some... this is the most I've heard him clarify it, but I have heard it before.
Interesting. So, in other words, he probably didn't return phone calls for schools that were interested in you.
There were no phone calls to be
scholarships.
There were no phone calls to be answered.
Never materialized because of his.
There were no phone calls to be answered.
Okay.
And for anybody out there that would be like, well, Eddie's a malcontent, I can tell you flat out, I know his position coach very well, have known him for about 20 years, and loves Eddie like a second son.
I
like
could have coached that team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back on track here. What was the single best thing that happened for OU last weekend at the barbecue, if you had to name one?
Well, see, now you're the very end of it throws me off a little bit, but I'm going to be honest about. I'll just say within the weekend, getting Kamar Wheaton on campus, 5-star running back, number 5 overall player in the country. He didn't come to the barbecue. He came on Friday and got a lot of one-on-one time and was around the staff and did that kind of thing. So it was a little bit different visit than a lot of the guys that were there for the barbecue. But this is a big-time guy, could be one of the foundational pieces. I mean, you talk about a class that has Vandegrift and Wheaton in it. I mean, I hate to throw a mother of a jinx out there, but that's Bomar and Peterson. I mean, that's the kind of air you're talking about with 2 top 5 guys in the same backfield. So, like I said, he's a big deal. I was told by a lot of people that he really enjoyed his time. I haven't had a chance to talk with him. I'm not really holding my breath if that opportunity will present itself. He's a pretty quiet guy, doesn't really talk to anybody. It's kind of, if you talk to somebody about it, it's a coaching friend or it's a friend of his, it's always through kind of secondhand people. So it's a little tough to know for sure, but I do think Oklahoma made a good impression on him.
The in-state factor is back. It's nice to see after the last couple of years of people wondering what the heck was going on. I mean, you had Ethan Downs raved about his trip. Kendall Daniels at Begg sounded like he was almost close. Then you got Horn and Williams for 2022. That's nice to see. That's nice to think that there will be a firm foundation from within the state that elite guys, not just guys, you're just saying, well, maybe they can work, a borderline 3-star type of dude. Now, these guys will be legit, and they'll really help in terms of trying to build the 2021 and 2022 classes. Even though they didn't commit, and I don't think any of them will commit anytime soon, OU is going to be the leader for that quartet for a long time to come.
I mean, the nice part about that, you're just talking about nothing but defensive guys. I mean, you're getting big, good athletes. Horn and Williams could be your 3 years starters at corner. I mean, like that could be the start of, okay, now Oklahoma's starting to produce some NFL-type guys at corner. You add Kendall Daniels, Kendall Daniels to me is a guy that if he can get to 225, 230, he'll be an absolute monster. It's just a matter of can he put that on his frame, because he is 6'4". I mean, he's every bit of his listed, but he's 185, 190 pounds. He's a big, long, he looks more like a receiver right now. Honestly, he looks a little like CeeDee Lamb did at the same age. Like, and I know that's like, whoa, that's crazy. He's bigger and he's broader, but like that same kind of, he's still very lean. There's still a lot of development to go. But if his body can do it and can hold it, that guy could be a special, special player.
If he doesn't put it on, you think he could still be a factor at safety?
I don't think he has the twitch that would work very well at safety. I think if he couldn't get to play a pure linebacker position, he'd have to do some kind of hybrid, whether you had a special setup for him or just doing something where because I mean, like I said, guys his size and can run, those guys aren't everywhere. A guy that's creative enough, it's kind of like what I talk about with Lincoln Riley with certain offensive guys. If you have a defensive coordinator that is creative enough to find a role for him, I think you could make that work. And the good thing for Oklahoma is, in that conversation, Alex Grinch will do all kinds of stuff with his front seven. He'll throw a lot of different looks at you. He'll do a lot of things like, okay, we're going to blitz Kendall Daniels in the A-gap. No, he's dropping 20 yards. Like, he'll do a lot of different stuff. And with that, it provides you that flexibility of, okay, maybe he could still work even if it doesn't go just the way we want it to.
Anything that you would really put your finger on as a disappointment this weekend?
Oh, I mean, I think you have to own that it's a little disappointing that there weren't any commitments. I know earlier we were talking about, the fans kind of expecting some. Bob, I mean, I think we're just being honest. I thought at least 2 would come in this weekend. I thought Jonah Monheim and I thought Noah Arinze would be on board. And I told Noah as much. I was surprised that he hadn't committed, and, nope, it's fine that he didn't. But it's just one of those things where I thought that was the way that was going to go. And with Noah, it sounds like he just wasn't quite there yet. That's not really where his head was at. With Monheim, I continue to hear stuff like there's going to be some sort of resolution by the end of this week. Now, it may be that as simple as, okay, he's just not ready to go down that road, and Oklahoma's going to have to get more serious about, okay, maybe it's Aaryn Parks or maybe it's Anton Harrison or Marcus Dumerville. They might have to look in another direction. And it's not that they won't still continue to recruit Jonah Monheim, because I, from everything I understand, they like him a whole lot. But they have to prepare themselves for the possibility they're not going to get him, and what do we do in that eventuality?
Aren't you guys kind of going on about a month where you've just been wondering any day that he could pull the trigger, Monheim?
I'd say it's about 2.
Is it about 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, with the way that Beatenbow has been filling up that class and with the other options out there, it's sort of, hey, you got to do it now or we kind of move
running
on.
out of space, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, like I said, I talked to you guys about it before we started the pod, but there's a lot of belief that not only is Oklahoma taking a strong position with Aaryn Parks, they may be the leader. They might be the pick you'd make right now. For those that, if you want to go with the case that maybe Oklahoma takes a 5th offensive lineman, which is still a possibility down the road. I just don't think it's deemed, okay, that's definitely going to happen. I think it's kind of open-ended right now.
And the thing with Parks is intriguing is, like, he's telling that to people in the area. Like, it's coming from his part of the country, not from anybody in this part of the country. Like, he's just openly telling people he's intrigued by Oklahoma as much as any team.
Dead on. I mean, that's a great point, because I'm not. That's not from conversations with my sources. That's not something that I'm getting. That's something I'm hearing from people back east, close to him. So it's coming from him. Like, I mean, that's not a this source thinks Oklahoma's got a good chance, that kind of thing. This is from his side of the fence. So, like I said, I think if Oklahoma wants to go down that road with Parks, they are as good a contender as anybody. He really buys into the whole Bill Beatenbow mystique. And then you talk about Marcus Dumerville. I mean, I know Eddie and I talked about it after we did the interview in Atlanta. That guy was a lot more sold on Oklahoma than I expected to hear. Like, I thought he would kind of be, he's St. Thomas Aquinas. He's got a ton of offers. You kind of thought he'd play it cool, but he's like, man, Oklahoma's O-line you. That's why you want to go there. That their guys go to the NFL, blah, blah. I mean, he had the whole thing laid out. He knew why Oklahoma was appealing, and he clearly loved his officials. So there's a lot of ways Oklahoma can go. And again, with Aaryn Parks, he's never even been to Norman. He's never made an official visit. He's never seen a game. Oklahoma has all this they can still throw at him if they want to go down that road. And like I said, I think that's why there is some expectation or some plan that, okay, if Monheim isn't on board here pretty soon, Oklahoma's going to have to figure something out, because they don't want to lose that momentum with a guy like Parks if they need to go ahead and use it.
And for people that don't know, Parks, it wasn't a regional combine. Like, he was the offensive line MVP of the 5-Star Challenge in Atlanta. Like, that's a big-time football player.
And again, kind of, and it's funny what an easy fit he is, because like I've talked about for a long time with Monheim, he could play some center, he could play guard, he could play tackle. There's a lot of ways you can use him. Aaryn Parks lined up, at the 5-star. He played some center, he snapped, he did guard, he did tackle. Like, he is the same kind of guy that has a lot of positional versatility, which, I won't go into again, but we know that Oklahoma likes that.
Do you think that it's a situation where, I mean, is it for a lack of better terms, is it Monheim? Is it his spot if he wants it, and then they move on, or do you see it as a situation that if Parks wanted to commit today, that kind of rules everybody else out?
I think it's Monheim's spot for a little bit longer. I think it would be interesting to see how they handled that, Eddie. I don't know. I mean, again, we're talking about him. He's Aaryn Parks, the number 67 player in the whole country.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Just from a fan perspective, you would think like, oh, well, this guy's ranked higher. You would want to take him, and you would almost tell Monheim, like, sorry, but we're taking the higher ranked guy. And I know that's not how they do that, but
sure.
It's an interesting conversation to have, I guess, when you have three guys out there basically going for one spot.
Sure. I mean, like I said, I can tell you, I mean, Nate Anderson, I think we've got him at 122 or something in the country, and Andrew Rame's barely a 250 guy, which is crazy.
Whatever.
But, that's another story. But I can tell you from talking to people that I trust, Oklahoma thinks those guys are as good as anybody in the country. I mean, they think they are very excited about both of those guys. So, and looking at Oklahoma's track record, I mean, they took Ben Powers, who nobody else was that excited about, turned him into a third-round pick. Cody Ford, LSU didn't want him. And
you can't. There's two things that you can't question about Oklahoma football right now, and it's what they're doing at quarterback and what they're doing at offensive line. Like those are off limits, and you could maybe even make the conversation at wide receiver.
Yep. Oh, I mean,
so basically the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. It's amazing when a group that has produced Joe Mixon, Kennedy Brooks, Trey Sermon, you're like, well, the running backs are the weak link here. But I mean, it's not wrong. It's just the other three are so good right now. Even tight end, you had a Mackey Award winner.
I mean, the tight ends are probably the most underrated part of the whole thing. But
which is funny because I think even if you ask Lincoln Riley about it, it's like we still I don't think talk about enough how good Dimitri Flowers was in that role and his ability to open things up for everybody else on that offense.
It's
or am I overstating it?
No, I mean he just I think the thing with Dimitri Flowers was Lincoln Riley loves that H-back spot. He loves the fact that people don't account for him. That he can do things to that guy. I mean, that's why he has an H-back coach. I mean, that he understands that can be kind of a secret weapon in the offense, and that's why we're kind of excited about Braden Willis, seeing what he can do in that position, because he's a different type of guy.
Well, you talk about all those guys, and it's like Calcaterra, Lee Morris, and then Braden Willis, or even Jeremiah Hall, in a way,
Tech game last year,
and then it's like, oh shit, what about Austin Stogner? What are they going to do with him? So I mean that entire fullback H-back room, tight end room is, I mean, Shane Beamer has plenty of options there. I guess is probably just the best way to say it.
What I would like to know is, I've always, it's got to be. Because those positions don't dictate anything. Like if you got two backs on the field, you're probably running the ball. You got four wide, you're probably throwing the ball. You get those guys out there, they don't tell the defense anything. Because they could be lead blocking, they could be doing that little dummy play up the middle that they used to love to run to Dimitri Flowers. I mean, those guys can attack in so many ways, and they're so versatile. I mean, like, Bob, I mean, much love. Carson Meyer became a very useful player for Oklahoma last year. I mean, going into last year, I was like, oh, I don't know what they're going to do. He was, pound for pound, maybe their best blocker. Carson Meyer was a really good player for them.
Well, I think a big part of it, too, people don't defend those guys in those positions with, like, a great sense of urgency.
Sure.
Like, you're focused on CeeDee Lamb. You're focused on Grant Calcaterra or Lee Morris. You're focused on Trey Sermon coming out of the backfield. Like, that guy at H-back, whether it's Carson Meyer or Dimitri Flowers or, Braden Willis moving forward, like, they don't get the ball enough for you to just, look at them every time they come out there and say, got to watch out for this guy.
And you need to have someone who's selfless enough to understand that they're not going to get a lot of touches, but to make the most of them, and that they can handle all those different parts of the offense. Because Josh is right. You don't get tipped off if it's a run or a pass play, but that player's got to be capable in both areas in order to even be on the field.
And there's probably also something to be said for a guy like Austin Stogner. Is there a dude that more lulls you to sleep Like, and I don't mean like he's not good or he's not, but like there's nothing about Austin that you're like, wow. I mean, he's big. And that's like, but you're not like, that guy's going to run past me. That guy's going to do this. Like, you don't realize how fast he's moving, and then you're like, crap, he's gone. Like, and it's, like I said, it feels like Braden Willis, like you see that dude and you're like, that dude's scary looking. Austin's like just good. He's just a good football player. And like I said, so I think he's got to have some subtle advantage in just being like, there's somebody that's going to be like, oh, he's just a blocker. He's just going to block guy. Like, they'll think he's Carson Meyer and won't realize like he's fully capable of being a 40 catch guy.
He's not like baby Gronk. He's like a newborn deer Gronk. Like, I don't know if he's capable of getting there, but you certainly see the possibility.
There has to be like a little development phase where it's like, oh shit, he gained 30 pounds.
Yeah,
like he could get 30 more and then he would be there.
He's giraffe just born Gronk right now. Like they get up and
it's very easy to see why
Frankenstein looking.
Whoever would like him. It's very easy to see.
The potential is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Even when we saw him back in the spring, I was like, better than I thought.
Yeah.
When I'd see him running routes. Because he's just so damn big.
You expect him to be more awkward than he is.
Yeah, I did.
Yep. I did the same thing when I saw him at Army. I kind of thought, okay, maybe it'll catch up to him a little bit here, and he was fine. He didn't have any problems.
Just a little bit more out of the barbecue, Josh. I wanted to ask you about the two JUCO defensive tackles, Justin Jackson and Quay Mays.
Mississippi boys.
What I think that outside of maybe those two the offensive linemen and Monheim and I'm gonna have a problem saying that name.
Yeah,
I can
Monheim.
already tell Monheim.
You've done Moan twice.
I know. It would seem though that those two kind of on a pecking order, if you're looking at I guess 2020 that class and even further, just what they're doing at defensive tackle, those would be two that really kind of jump off the page at you.
Yeah, and I got the impression talking to them and talking to some sources that it was really Oklahoma wanted to not only be around them, but just kind of size them up. Like, how big are you? What do you really do? Because on tape, they're both really good players. I talked about it last week. Justin Jackson he's committed to Georgia. I mean, where the head coach is Mel Tucker. He's committed to Colorado. And the head coach is former DC at Georgia, Mel Tucker, that knows what it looks like. I mean, he knows the kind of guys he's looking for. And for him to sign off on the kid, he's clearly a good player. I think they wanted to see, because he's listed at like 6'2", 250. Is he 6'1", 245, or is he 6'2" and could carry 275 okay? Like, I think there was some trying to figure that out. And with Quay Mays, when you watch him on tape, good penetrator, really almost an ideal fit for what you think OU wants at that nose, where I mean, he's big enough. He's probably 310, 315, something like that, but he's quick. Like, he's going to get upfield. He's going to attack. He's not Casey Hampton that's going to just sit his butt down and wait for you to come to him. Like, he's going to go make plays upfield, which is what we all believe Alex Grinch wants. So I think there was some interest in both of them just to size them up, kind of see what they said or see, how it all just came off. And I think with Jackson, I talked to him and he told me that Thibodeau and Grinch kind of said, hey, we need to see your transcripts. We're really interested, blah, blah, blah. They both were around Thibodeau all week or all Saturday. So I think there's some real interest there. I really do. Now, the fact that they weren't offered on campus tells me there's some hesitation. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured that out yet. But I think Oklahoma is still trying to figure out their numbers. Like I said, I mean, you still have to say maybe a quarterback emerges. Although I'm getting farther and farther away from that being that realistic of an idea. But who knows? Maybe somebody comes up and they say, we want to take that chance. Well, you've got a couple of offensive linemen like we've already talked about in play. Dante Manning is still out there. Do you want to take another corner, which it kind of looks like they might with making the recent offer to the Caleb Offord kid that's committed to Notre Dame. So there's a lot of balls still kind of in the air as far as where these numbers are going to play out.
That was kind of a very specific and a very dated shot, throwing Casey Hampton in there.
Oh, I mean, Casey Hampton, just a big ball that was a friggin' great player. I mean, no shot intended. He was a beast, but he wasn't a guy that was going to get upfield and get you sacks.
You talk about Corey Redding while we're at it, or?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Corey Redding, Galena Park North Shore. Huge recruit. Mac's first big win.
He wasn't he like USA Today Player of the Year or something?
He was. Because that was the year they signed the offensive and defensive, because trivia, who was the offensive player of the year that year for USA Today?
Vince Young.
Chris Sims.
Chris Sims. Oh, okay.
So, yep,
Way
they
too
got
early.
that duo. Oh yeah, I don't know if Vince was or not that year. He probably should have been, but he wasn't.
Well,
There's
he would have
Reggie.
been younger.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
No. I mean, like the year he came out.
Oh,
I'm
when he
wondering
came, I don't know
Yeah,
if USA Today. I think Max Westheimer, whatever his name is,
Emfinger.
Max Emfinger. I think maybe he'd started his religious scouting service by then.
Do you think that's the first time Max Emfinger's ever been mentioned in a podcast? Like that, those two things don't
that's
match.
a very good question. Yeah, it's like,
I've never even heard of that name.
oh, Eddie.
I bet. Would I have been a fan of this guy?
Oh, and
No.
No. He looked like Bob Ross,
Oh
but
my
he
God.
was a recruiting guy.
Recruiting guy?
He
Is
was
he-
like,
does he still do it?
There were some tent pole recruiters back in the day. Max Emfinger,
Lemming is still out there.
Tom Lemming, and you hate you.
Well, I'm sorry about that. No, he listens
I mean,
to such a reaction.
if not for
Just the name Tom Lemming makes me want to get facial injections.
I mean, the plastic surgery, the appearance on The Blind Side.
Did that? How much did you hate watch that?
Oh my God! Oh, Nick Saban needs to get his tape from me. He always wants to be first. Like, you asshole.
Bob, you need to watch your cussing. We're trying to get sponsors. We're trying to get some people to come in here.
Should never brought up the name.
I'm trying to. This guy doesn't even exist on the internet. Emfinger?
Max Emfinger
Oh,
recruiting.
Max Emfinger.
Max Emfinger. Yeah.
See, only. Did you say that he went on like a
lead-in-
crusade or something?
I think he became I think he started a religious scouting service.
How does that work? Are you a Christian? All right, we're gonna rank you.
The lead-in to his WordPress.com site. The new LSU locker room facility is a mind-blowing renovation by Super Scout Max Emfinger.
Oh, this guy looks great. He does look like a Bob Ross.
Do you think he still has a 900 number?
I don't know.
Or does he join Did somebody finally convince him to join Patreon too?
I'm worried that this thing is going to give me some kind of virus on this computer. Max Emfinger recruiting.com. Free advertisement. There you go.
Alan Wallace was another of the
Oh,
tent
yeah.
poles.
I
Super
kind of
Prep.
remember that name.
I can't remember who ran Prep Star.
Alan Wallace worked for Scout for a while.
Well, he was one of the first. He was one of the first people that signed up with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
He was
You're
kind
right.
of. He was, because Rivals went with Bobby and Krabby, and Scout kind of put their weight behind Alan Wallace, which I don't think he was working anymore at that point.
Yeah, you had Alan. You had obviously Bobby was a big deal. I mean,
What about
I've told
Schumann?
I've told that's who?
David Schumann.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
I don't remember Dave being anything other than camps. Oh God, I remember going to that. I went one year.
Yeah, I
to that
mean, he
Dallas
wasn't
camp
really
and saw
like
Justice
into the
Hansen.
recruiting
Yeah.
part of it. I mean, you were more like David Garvin was. He and Bobby
wow.
Burton worked together.
Ask a Texas fan sometime about Gotch Yarbrough. That pretty much ended David Garvin's career.
Is that a football player?
Is he still around?
Some fans on his board got convinced that Garvin would make up names, like would just make up, or not make up names, make up evaluations, like pretend he'd seen people he hadn't seen. And so they came up with this guy like, David, have you heard about this guy named Gotch Yarbrough? He's this Canadian wide receiver. He went on and would talk about how talented the kid was and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, this is not a real person, David. We just made this guy up. And I want to say within like a year, the LSR, Lone Star Recruiting, that used to be part of the Rivals Network, it was like our Texas Prep site, got handed over to Catch. And that's kind of when, and then later on, Catch took over the Texas site. No, Catch owned Lone Star, and then they gave him the Texas site from Garvin. There we go. So a lot of Rivals history there for everybody. Be a pop quiz later.
You need to put in post-production, you need to put that little more little bum, bum, bum. That's what that is.
So there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, I don't want to bring up any more names.
All right. What, I guess, is there anything else from the barbecue that you wanted to, that we haven't hit on? I know that there's kind of been all over the place. But, I mean, as a whole, I think that you could say it was a positive, even though it maybe isn't viewed as a positive. I know we're kind of rehashing, but I mean, I think that's probably the best way to put it. I mean, there wasn't anything bad that happened.
Josh, I have one question. That was first visit campus, Brian Darby. What were his thoughts?
He loved it. It was amazing. You know, he kind of gushed about it, and we were supposed to talk either today or tomorrow, so I don't know when that'll actually happen. But he loved it. You know, and a guy that, like I said, I know some people when he committed thought, oh, College Station guy. You know, he may. I think he's all in, and I don't think A&M's got a spot for him anyway. So, like, I think there's not much to worry about. He seems very solid. I think he really liked getting his first look at campus and just being around it. And, I mean, again, kind of what we talked about. Talk about a good event to be at. You're already committed. It's just a fun deal where the coaches are cooking barbecue and there's water balloon fights and, you know, Kendrick Blackshire's hitting Nate Anderson in the face with pies. Like, it's super low-key. And that's a really easy and good introduction to a school for the first time.
It is. And it was kind of interesting. Like this group is not real. I don't want to say social media savvy, but not social media forward. That was there.
Correct. There were not a lot of videos leaking out. Like the videos and photos from the last couple of years, you had a better idea of how the day was progressing, where they were in terms of is the day almost over, you know, what's still left to come.
Just know, if you're out there listening, Jack Bridges and Kelvin Hicks, you are still parent recruit champions.
Well, you had Justin Broyles' mother. You've had Corwin Walker was a big one in terms of Daryl Simpson. You've had some.
Corey Robertson's mom tweeted a lot, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you've had some parents that, and it's not, you know, all parents are really championing the brand, but what these parents would go above and beyond doing is they would post the videos and the photos real time, so you had a better feel of how the day was going.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have that.
Slackers.
Well, I mean, the good news is it didn't hurt us nearly as much as it probably hurt some others that parents were not heavily involved.
Every once in a while you get Josh shots that are just golden.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of almost gets me erect, I'll be honest.
Well, you're in the right chair.
You go after Chance Mock while you're at it.
Right chair.
Chance Mock, that's a name I haven't heard in forever.
He started in 2003.
Oh my God. I know. That's just like that is a name that I have not heard in literally forever. He was a concussion kid, right?
You're thinking David Ash.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. That's right.
Vince Young was finally just better.
Yeah, Chance Mock was the stopgap.
That's right.
I think, wasn't that OU game the last game Mock started?
It had to be. He was terrible.
65-13.
They brought in Vince Young to just take a beating that day.
I'm trying to remember, like, how bad was it before Young came in? It was like 21-0 or something. It wasn't that bad yet, but it was well on its way. Because Young didn't do anything.
Yeah, because Young got a lot of turnovers.
Yeah. He had that fumble that Jonathan Jackson picked up.
And then the next year, it was the 12-0 game.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Can you imagine a 12-0 game now?
Oh, my God. What happened? What happened to the after the first quarter? What happened? After the first 5 minutes, what happened?
Guys, somebody asked me on the board today, and same deal on that board chat. They were like, what's more likely to happen? Alabama scoring, or what's going to happen first? Alabama scoring LSU scoring 30 on Alabama, or Oklahoma shutting out a top 25 team.
Oh boy!
And I'm like, it's LSU. Do you know the last time LSU shut out a top 25 team? 1995.
I was going to say, this is one of those questions that you think it's probably happened in the last decade, and it hasn't happened in the last 95. God, 30 years, 25 years.
Carey, I know you'll know. Bob or Eddie, can you tell me who LSU's head coach was in 1995?
DiNardo?
Yeah, nice. Yep, absolutely.
Jerry DiNardo.
I'm glad that you guessed, Bob, because I had no idea. I was 8. Pretty wild.
So, yeah, I mean, coming up, we've got Media Day on Friday and Fan Appreciation Day.
This is how close football season is. I told
Saturday
you, Carey, before.
Practice.
I had a buddy text me. He was like, hey, you want to play golf Saturday? I was like, absolutely. This is like my last Saturday. Don't have anything to do. It's going to be awesome. Bob's tweet, DM in the group. We're trying to figure things out for Friday and then Saturday. And I'm like, Saturday? What's Saturday? Lo and behold, we'll be talking to Lincoln Riley after the first Oklahoma football practice on Saturday. That's how close football season is. Fridays meet the Sooners Day, local media day. So, I mean, it is 100% here. I drove by the practice field yesterday.
Saw that, yeah.
And
took some bush pictures.
They were out there mowing the lawn.
Whatever
I mean,
they gotta do.
it kind of got the juices flowing a little bit.
And then Monday we'll be able to have video and photos. So the next pod is going to be a loaded one.
Yeah, we'll have been at a practice on the next pod, which is insane.
You think Jalen Hurts will wear any OU gear during practice?
I mean, no.
Actually, what are the chances? What are the chances that Jalen Hurts?
Green?
What are the chances that he does wear OU gear? Should that be the question?
You got to wear a helmet, right?
Were you guys aware
They don't
that
put the OUs on him at the start of camp, I don't think.
you got to earn your OUs? It's like earning your stripes with the Yankees. Were you aware that you can bet right now in Vegas on who the starting quarterback is going to be for Oklahoma?
What do you get? You got to bet like a million to get $100.
Jalen Hurts is minus 1,500. Spencer Rattler's plus 500, and Tanner Mordecai's plus 800. That's
Rattler's
insane to me.
favored.
Well, it's insane to me that you can actually go put money on that. That somebody out there
$1,500 to win 100.
Correct.
For Jalen Hurts. Okay.
Correct. Which, I mean, it's clearly odds-on favorite going in.
I think that's free freaking money. Like, if you've got the money to make the bet,
Yeah, how many people just with big bankrolls, that's all they do is make those kind of bets?
I'm sure there's a lot of people in Vegas that make a healthy living.
Because to me, that's the only bet that really makes sense. And if you just had the bankroll. But it's not, I mean, let's face it. How fun is it to spend $1,500 and just win 100? Like, that doesn't seem a lot of fun
That's one
to
of
me.
those things you put down, 20 grand or
well,
something.
yeah, but still. You put down 20 grand, 15, 10. I mean, that's
you win like
barely
1,000.
even $1,200 or whatever.
Yeah, it's like $1,200.
Not worth
Yeah.
what's the line, the juice, not worth the squeeze.
God,
there?
we're so horrible at math, and we almost nailed that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, there'd be somebody that'll find a fault in it.
What was the math problem we tried to figure out that one time?
It was something
awful.
stupid out of like Little Big League.
If five days removed from
It was
Wednesday.
it was a
It was off
Wonderlic
the
question.
Wonderlic question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God, that was terrible.
that started and ended my life as a Wonderlic talent evaluator.
You're like the Madden evaluator.
Eddie had an interview the next day. They called and canceled.
You know who is though?
I know who is
Barry Sanders.
Barry J. Sanders.
Barry J.
J,
Sanders.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which cool for him. I mean, I went to
Oh,
Stanford.
that'd be an
and
awesome job.
That's my job.
Roll around Bay Area.
Josh would be unbearable if he had that job.
Like, nah, he's a 75.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's a 75.
Yeah.
75 and a half.
Did you
Tom
see him?
Tom Brady would be like, he's a punk. He's nothing.
Have you ever seen him turn?
Oh. The thing, like...
Go watch Patrick Peterson turn and then come back and tell me he's an 85.
Tell me he's a 99. There's no way he's more than 83. You're out of your mind.
Is there any way that will shed light on Caleb Kelly's situation on Friday? I mean, I say situation. I don't even know. What the situation is.
I would say, well,
It's
right
gonna
now,
be asked,
Caleb
but-
Kelly is still the plan is still playing in 4 games, getting ready to go next year for a full season. Which, there's just no way he's going to be back for even half of a season. Not 100% and cleared by doctors.
That's with the same thought, though, that like we know for a fact what happened. I mean, it was always so weird how it was specified that it was just a lower leg injury.
I mean,
he had surgery. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
It was an ACL.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, he and Jordan Kelly had the same injuries.
I don't know. It just seems weird that it was never.
That's the way Lincoln.
I don't know.
That's how Lincoln rolls now. He doesn't just tell.
And I think
upper
that's
body
because,
and
like,
lower body.
I want to say that it's because NFL stuff and, protecting a player's injury history and things like that. Not so much HIPAA, even though they can hide behind that if they want to.
Sure.
But, I mean, NFL teams are going to get a full physical. They're going to find out what's happened. They're going to have your medical history. So all that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, to be honest.
So if Caleb happened in March, Yeah.
6 to 8 months.
There's just no
best
way,
case.
right?
Yeah.
Best
No,
case.
you wouldn't think so.
April, May, June, July,
Oh,
August,
God, math again.
September. I mean, September is 6
It's
months.
6, yes.
Ready for a hot take?
Sure.
See how powerful prayer is.
Oh, God.
What?
Nothing.
No.
I mean, what do you have me say? Eddie's attacking religion again.
I'm not attacking anything.
You absolutely are.
That's not an attack. That's a statement. It's a hot take. Let's just see how powerful prayer really is.
Would there be any way
It's the reason your cars are always dinged up.
It might be.
if he was ready
It's
halfway,
definitely a karma thing. For
I
sure.
have not known Eddie to not have a car that doesn't have half of a side caved in. It happened with your truck.
Yeah, I got that fixed though. I just need to go get it fixed. I need to go do that. I might do that before the season starts.
No.
That's going to be my oath to the listeners. I'll get that fixed before September 1.
But is there any way if he's ready, like halfway through the season,
They say screw it.
because you're 4 games?
Well, the other side of it, might
years
be
in.
who's playing better. Like, are they getting
If
better
Deshaun
play
White,
out of Deshaun
if Deshaun White is playing lights out and Kenneth Murray is the guy that we think he, at least 3/4 of the guy we think he could be, do you have a need to play Caleb, who never has really taken a shine to that position, by the way?
Josh, who would you say has more to quote unquote prove going into this year? And this might be a little unfair. Bookie or Kenneth Murray?
I would
'Cause
say Kenneth Murray.
Okay.
And I get the case for Bookie. I do.
Bookie
he's
is
younger.
only-
He's had.
Bookie is only trying to prove he deserved to be a 5-star, though. Kenneth Murray is trying to prove that he is the best defensive player in a Power 5 conference.
Sure.
I think so. And Bookie last year at times was a completely serviceable and good player. Like everybody thinks about that West Virginia game, but I think
For
it's
good
not so much
reason.
that he. Yeah, no, that's fine. But it wasn't
Gonna
so much
live
that
in
he was.
lore.
He wasn't so much bad the rest of the time. He just didn't look like a 5-star.
Yeah.
It
Well,
wasn't
remember,
that
he
he
was
was bad.
hurt
He
a
just
lot
wasn't
last
what you.
year.
It wasn't what you thought he was.
He got hurt in the UCLA game, and he was never the same. I mean,
Especially after Kansas State hit.
yeah.
Then he was really
The K-State hit was
Yeah.
the real one, yeah.
So I mean, and with Kenneth, like Kenneth has had moments of good, but there's like you can point to plenty of scenarios where you're like, well, that wasn't what it needed to be.
Well, I think the most frustrating thing with Kenneth Murray is you turn on the game or turn on the tape or whatever, and he makes some really unbelievable plays, and then they run right at him, and all of a sudden he's catching and he tackles the guy 6 yards down the field.
The most troubling thing for me is that at times he's just lost on a football
Sure.
field. I mean,
that's
just
never.
completely
I don't think
lost.
that's going to ever be. Is it wrong to say that's never going to just be learned? You can't sit there and just. I think to an extent you can, but I don't know if you.
It's about instincts.
Yeah.
Does he
That's-
have any?
That's why I think like hanging out with guys, with like whoever up there, whether it be Teddy Lehman or whoever, you would hope that is somewhat, I don't know, handed over or suppressed upon him. I don't know. Like you would think hanging out with those guys and watching tape, by your third year, you would get that position, not necessarily down, but you would understand what you're doing better, I guess.
It's been interesting because he's had so much on his shoulders. Like that defense has been so bad. I mean, other than Curtis Bolton, he really had no other playmakers at that level of the defense last year. So I don't know if he can get better play up front. If Ronnie Perkins comes along, if Devin Gallimore comes along,
That's the other side of the argument.
I think
if those-
Famatu can be a really serviceable player.
if those defensive linemen can play better,
Yeah.
it opens up a lot of things.
See
for
what
Kenneth
happens with
Murray.
LeBron.
It's all a trickle down effect. I think that you get better play up front, your defensive backs are gonna play better probably because
not going to be on an island.
yeah,
forever.
you're not gonna have to cover for 6 seconds or 8 seconds like they have sometimes in the last couple of years.
Or have enough time to just be in single coverage and throw it 60 yards down the field.
Yeah, sure.
To Tylan Wallace over and over and over again.
Did you watch any of that game last night?
No, I've seen it
were
recently.
replaying
I've seen it
last
recently.
night. It was
like in the
number,
last. I saw it when I was on vacation.
it was like
week.
number 15 on ESPNU's.
It's tough
Games
to
of the
watch,
Year.
man. I mean, That defense, I got triggered about it last pod. I can't do it again. That defense was terrible.
It's crazy.
You know, I feel like that was the pod when Carey and Mike officially like broke up. Like that's where the relationship
Just stop
ended.
it with that.
It's sad. Like I
As we go, we remember.
I don't even know where this is coming from.
Together.
You should have seen these this little, I don't know, was it a silhouette of Mike that you had like the candles and stuff around over here in the corner?
I don't appreciate you.
Wait, was that by the chair? That's really uncomfortable.
It
now.
is uncomfortable now that I think about it. You bring up a good point, Josh.
I don't appreciate you building on this bullshit, basically.
That's what we do.
This will be often imitated during the podcast.
It's a good thing I edit the podcast. Full control.
Yeah. I thought we went for an hour and a half.
Editorial control.
It's just not there anymore. It's real weird. What outside of Friday, is there anything though that you're really, because I know that we caught some flack on the message boards for saying, "Oh, that's a local media day question," just as I did at least. What
about kickers?
Yeah, but I mean,
it's
but
true,
seriously,
though.
like
It
there
is.
will be some questions about kickers. Gabe Bursick, Burkich, God damn it, and then it just, I don't know. I mean, do you really think they're going to try and play up? This is a competition, or is it?
I bet we have Jalen and Tanner.
And Tanner
No, I mean, I
Mordecai?
think-
I bet we
Maybe
talked
we'll
the
talk to
ball.
Spencer. I don't know.
I think Lincoln is pretty open and honest about it.
Yeah.
It's going to be multiple people carrying out multiple assignments in the kicking game. You have Reeves Munchchow,
Well, he's going to be your punter, and then you have the Caleb
Burkich, and then
Sutherland is, I think,
the kickoff guy.
He's a little bit more of a shorter field goal type thing, and Gabe will be the long. He has a little bit bigger leg. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a big dude. He's like 6'2", like 180 something. I mean, he's kind of a unit.
There you go. There's your kicker breakdown.
And they have
You've only had to wait a month.
they
for
have
it.
they have the best battery in maybe the country. Casey Keller and Connor McGinnis, a former Hody winner.
Wow, I can't believe
returning.
Connor McGinnis is still here.
He's a senior this year,
He's a redshirt senior.
so that will be.
You think,
that
you
will be
think
fun.
other like special teams coordinators across the league are going like, when is Connor McGinnis ever going to graduate?
Maybe.
It's been here forever.
Maybe. They were saying the same thing about
Wesley Horkey.
yeah, they're saying the same thing about Horkey there for a while, even maybe Carter Whitson going back all the way into the mid 2000s,
Just like they did with Jason White.
just like they did with John Nemo. Shout
He
out.
did seem like he was here forever.
Shout out Nemo.
And he didn't he go to UCO and then come back or something like that?
I don't think so.
Or did he leave and then go to like,
Never left.
okay.
He was always there. But I don't think there's anything else out there that is going to just be a revelation come Friday. It's going to be like, oh,
Yeah,
we weren't expecting that.
I mean, it's going to
only
be
thing would be if someone got hurt in the last couple.
Yeah,
of
we've
weeks,
talked
and it's
about, like,
he's
you know,
out.
just see, yeah. I mean, we're going to want to go see Jeremiah Cradell. We're going to want to see Jaden Davis. We're going to
Yeah.
want to see
What
anybody new in the secondary.
what about RJ Proctor, just as far as where he fits in with this? I mean, I think everybody kind of has him penciled in as a starter, right? At guard. But what does that do to everybody else?
Right? Does he take away Marquise Hayes, Tyrese Robinson?
I think Marquise Hayes is kind of locked into one spot. Like I would think something drastic would have to happen to
I
move
don't know,
him.
but
to
I got to
bump him
say,
out.
I would think Bray Walker's locked into the spot.
At guard though,
Yeah.
Or they keep him at guard? Like
To
I think
start.
there's a lot of question marks. Obviously, with
Well,
the
I mean,
offensive line.
Ely, but obviously Swenson's going to start too.
Josh, your hair.
Son of a not cosign. That is not a cosign. Now, I mean, he will, but okay. If I put it in front of you, who's the starters at tackle by Texas? Do you think Swenson's still one of them? I don't.
Isn't the UCLA game really the barometer?
Maybe. I mean, Jonathan Alvarez, like we said last year, was starting. I mean, is there any question of who the better player was, whether Alvarez was healthy or not?
We've talked about this before. Go look at that starting lineup, offensive line-wise, against Houston when they lost.
Yep.
It was
Alvarez,
Alvarez, Alex
Alex
Dalton.
Dalton.
Yeah.
Brown. Did Cody Ford start that game? I know he started against Ohio State, but I don't know if he started the game against Houston.
I think maybe
he did,
Dalton
though.
started in his place.
Okay. Oh, you're right. And then Ford started. Yeah, you're right. And then he got hurt against Ohio State. That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some shifting. I mean, that's going to be – nobody's going to be able to figure that out right away.
What's weird, I think, with the line right now is the competition seems to be at guard when you actually want it to be a tackle. Unless Proctor's moved to tackle. But like you were talking about Bray Walker, Darrell Simpson, like all these guys are being moved to guard. And when you think, who are your tackle names besides Michael Thompson, who's never played the position?
What's crazy is, like, Beatonbaugh gets his mindset on his tackles now. And he was determined that Cody Ford was going to be a tackle. And he was determined that, golly, I'm blanking on 75's name.
Samia?
Drew Samia, like, wasn't going to be a tackle anymore, which I thought, when he started as a tackle in the semifinal, you know, like, how do you just take him out of there? Like, but that's what he wanted to do. That's what he did.
Yeah.
He gets it in his mind that this is what I want to do, and he does it. Unless it just doesn't work.
And then he scraps the whole thing, and they basically move everybody around, and it's like a restart for everyone. It's going to be interesting to see how that comes together because, you know, in no way am I sitting here saying that OU's going to lose to Houston or OU's going to lose to UCLA, and they're certainly not going to lose to South Dakota, or we should just burn the entire thing down. But, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to think that, and again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's not crazy to think and have an open mind that things could be rough in that first couple quarters against Houston, or you go on the road for the first time and playing a UCLA team that, you know, it could be a program-esque turn for them if they were to beat an OU in the third week of the season. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think anybody was sitting around here thinking Houston was going to beat OU in 2015 either.
Dane is going to come in here and attack those corners, attack that secondary. He's going to have a quarterback that can execute.
Where would King be on as far as the best quarterbacks OU plays all year?
Ooh. I mean, it depends on how far guys like Michael Brewer come.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Brock Purdy,
I mean,
Ehlinger.
I think you put him up there with Brock Purdy based on how he finished last year.
I'd have him ahead of Purdy.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah,
they're in that range together, I think.
And I don't think he's that far behind Sam. And that's no shot at Sam. I think King's pretty damn good. Especially with what they're going to – like, and it'll be interesting because Holgerson's never really had a guy like that, or at least not in a while. He's had more traditional pocket-type guys.
Who did he inherit at West Virginia? Who was his first quarterback? Would it have been post-Pat White?
Yeah. Because White ended around the same time as
Bill, what's his name?
Rich Rod.
Oh, okay.
Geno Smith?
Geno Smith would have been his first quarterback, yeah.
And then
That's right.
and then Trickett?
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, does that get enough pub that Holgerson likes a transfer quarterback?
Yeah, I mean,
it is narrative season.
By the way, I did make it 3 episodes into Last Chance.
I finished
Chance
it.
U, did
I
you?
did.
You're doing God's work because I watched 4 and I was like, all right.
It's really hard to
I've
watch
had
back-to-back seasons the same. I couldn't get through the second East, Mississippi.
Yeah,
It's
East
bad.
Mississippi.
It feels like they're just picking the wrong players. Like, why didn't we hear more about some of those other guys that actually did stuff? It's like the narrative was set.
You're
in.
saying the documentary.
Like Bobby Bruce. Why are we following Bobby Bruce when he didn't do a damn thing? Why was there an episode centered on him?
I know.
You have 8 episodes. You wasted 1 to talk about someone who never did anything.
So everyone can see how lovable this loser is that knocked up his girlfriend and then kept robbing people. Like, yes, that kid is too stupid to be even a junior college like Independence.
Now, the only thing I'll give him credit for is at least he owned that it was just him. Like, he didn't, take his buddies down with him.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, they didn't know anything about it. And
Well,
I'm
it just seemed like they're focusing on the guys.
Well, he'd
that
already
could get
been in
him
jail.
ratings.
He knows snitches get stitches.
Fair enough.
It just seemed like they're focused on the guys that they knew would get some ratings.
Yeah.
And the coach is just that guy's such a joke. It doesn't even
Like they spent.
it makes me uncomfortable.
They spent a segment.
I should like him. I should like
Jermaine
that guy.
Johnson. One of the best
Yep.
junior college kids in the entire country.
Yeah, and that guy
he goes
has
to Georgia.
That guy has players coming in left and right. But yeah, I mean, Jermaine Johnson made one of the biggest plays early in the season, and they glossed over it.
It's like, all right.
He had a fumble, a sack, fumble recovery touchdown that broke open the game against Dodge City, and they're just yep, there's, and then they move on but the quarterback from Georgia Tech is hurt on the sideline. It's they're up 60-7.
I liked the other defensive end. I liked that storyline. I thought he was good.
The white
Obviously,
kid?
Yeah, no.
Kalen.
Kalen
Davis,
Davis
right?
kid
Yeah.
that signed with Arkansas
okay.
State. Yeah. They call him KD. I liked his story, but I'm with you guys. And I get that I come at from a recruiting standpoint, but a lot of people that are going to watch that do too. They're football fans that want to know the backstory of Jermaine Johnson, or they want to know the backstory of the kid that signed with Kansas, or what, they want to have some connection to it, not just Bobby Bruce is an idiot again.
Yeah. By the way, we've talked about kind of things on the boards that have not driven us crazy, but just been kind of head scratchers. Somehow when that thread turned to people mad at us because we couldn't tell them when QB1 was starting, is one of the best threads that's been started recently. But so somebody Eddie just did I don't know, I'm going to Google it just like you will, and it was just, screw you if you can't tell what's going on. That is, God, I'm going to get so much crap for that.
Yes, you are.
But I mean, literally, that's one of those questions. I don't know. I'd have to Google. I wasn't on the production of the set.
Great question. Let me Google it. That's exactly what I said. And I believe it's August 13th for those that are listening.
But it was when you realize that Spencer Rattler didn't even play, but how many games did he play this season? This last season?
5? Yeah, I was going to say somewhere around there.
It's going to be interesting how that whole thing is
too.
crafted. And I also think.
And then didn't one of the other quarterbacks get hurt and not play a whole bunch or something?
Oh, one of the other guys that they featured? I don't remember. It's going to be interesting, though, and this might even be a question maybe for Riley on Friday or Saturday, just as far as are they is it gonna be released what? I think we all know what he kind of did, but is it going to be released publicly? Is that going to be out in the forefront? And is OU going to have to make a comment on it? We support
I'll ask him that.
That's kind of the PR bullshit, stupid stuff that I'm talking about. It's not that big of a deal, but there's going to be people out there that, look at Oklahoma again, this renegade program.
Maybe we should find out exactly what we said about Spencer Rattler that they wanted to use.
I hope it's in there. I hope it's something crazy.
Before we start going after Lincoln Riley too hard.
I'm not going after him. I'm just saying, it's going to be interesting how that is treated, how that's handled.
If that's put on the dock,
yeah,
yeah, it has to be. It has to be talked about.
You would think,
because that's going to be somewhat headline clickbait news.
I don't know. 17-year-old
This is why Spencer
kid,
Rattler was suspended.
17-year-old kid, and why he got suspended.
Five-star quarterback going OU. Why?
I really don't know.
I'm just saying. I'm wondering how QB1 deals with that. Do they release what the details were?
Right.
Can they release?
Speaking of Lincoln Riley questions, is anyone going to ask him if he has plans to put Spencer and Jalen Hurts in an Oklahoma drill? Did you guys see this?
Where did this come from?
Have you not seen this? At Miami's practice, Manny Diaz put Tate Martell and their other quarterback, N'Kosi Perry, into an Oklahoma drill.
Jesus.
And is Tate Martell still standing?
Tate apparently put him on his back.
I could see that.
Right.
I mean, he's low. He's got low center of gravity.
He
He's got
does.
some, But that's such a gimmicky ploy, we're going to be tougher this year. We're putting our quarterbacks in Oklahoma drill. You're lucky you didn't break somebody's arm, and then you'd be screwed.
Everybody
think you're an idiot.
Manny Diaz was on ESPN, I think. He went up to Bristol or something.
The car wash, yeah.
Oh, was that the car? That was part of the car wash.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lincoln going to do it?
Big 12 not do that? I don't think the Big 12 did a car wash this year.
I don't think so. No.
Wonder why. As a whole, the league didn't do one.
That's good. That's a good question.
Yeah.
They got enough publicity.
Anyways,
I don't need that.
Manny Diaz was on it, and what I saw, I kind of like Manny Diaz. I think he's a decent, good football coach.
You appreciate his story.
Sure. But his whole and I don't know, maybe this just goes back to an idea about the U and everything that little time period when he was there kind of stood for. But it's man, it's kind of a joke nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of a joke. If you're trying to bring back this, the U has this edge type, I don't know. I think it's very fake.
Well, I mean, it's just a different time. I mean, you're talking about Luke Skywalker and Two Live Crew days. I mean, that is old now. I mean, that was when I was in high school.
Yeah.
That's so old.
It seems like they're trying too hard, maybe, to bring back something that has been gone for 20 years.
Think how much they would get mocked if they rolled out of an airplane to a bowl game in fatigues.
Oh my gosh!
Now,
well, first off, you wouldn't be respecting the troops.
I mean, I knew when that 30 for 30 came out, it was going to be, kind of insufferable for a while.
Oh, but that 30 for 30, I will say, was awesome.
Well, the first one was great because it details all that stuff in the time period. But then when they came out with the second one, I was like, oh,
trash.
God.
Oh,
Really?
the one that was like
trash.
actually centered on the U, not the convicts versus
About Don Shalala
Catholics.
and all this stuff. And
No, there's a U part 2.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
I don't even know
that's
if I
all
saw that.
About like
It was like the
2014.
fall.
it was like the fall of the U.
Oh, nobody cares about that. I only care about the real
rise.
hardcore stuff. So it will be, I don't know. It feels good. It feels like football is definitely here. I know
told
that
you the
training
other
camps
day-
have started and everything like that.
Get ready for December to be here.
I know. It'll be, before you know it, it will be the end of it.
Hopefully people are still going to football games in December.
You don't think they will be?
Well, I'm not talking about just OU,
Oh, just as a whole?
just in general.
Um,
Maybe
Yeah.
even 9 a.m. on the West Coast.
Does that not seem like the dumbest idea that has ever been proposed? Like, if we're going to
It
sit here
shows
and
you how
act like
desperate they are.
Well, if we're
Right.
going to act like we care about the student athlete, which I think is bullshit to begin with, that would be the worst thing that you could do for a student athlete, isn't it? Making him get up and to get ready to play a football game at 9 a.m. You get up at 3:30 in the morning.
Larry Scott's job is not to worry about the student athlete. It's to worry about how do we make football games more desirable so that people want the Pac-12 network, because until that gets off the ground, they're so far behind everybody.
Then the schools and athletic directors have to say something, and like that would be the worst thing that you could do, is make these kids get up at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning to physically get ready to play a football game at 9 a.m.
That's pretty crazy.
I wonder how much longer this goes before the Pac-12 becomes where the Big 12 was 10 years ago, and they start.
People
Some
question
teams
if
start
they
get-
should even be included in the college football playoff anymore.
No. I mean, like, do teams start getting
Financially.
picked off?
Yeah.
Like, because they're losing. I mean,
Well, I hope so,
It's
and I
not
hope-
realistic for them to compete
I
with
hope the Big-
Oklahoma, Michigan, etc.
Yeah, I hope the Big 12 goes and takes Arizona and Arizona State. I mean, they're
Probably bring back
stupid for
Colorado.
not being active about it. Oh, I'd love it if Colorado came back. They're stupid for not trying to put a coup together. And maybe they're not stupid because Bob Bowlesby said all that stuff about there's been no talks about it. Like, that's what you should be saying if you really want to steal a couple of teams.
You don't say things like we're not going to be a wallflower.
Yes, and I was there for that.
You know, if we would have had Boren and Gallagly fight in a cage match, we were talking about that one morning. That would be top tier pricing for Soonersports.com.
That would be
Sooner Sports
over so
TV.
fast.
Who do you think would win?
Oh, Gallagly.
You think?
It would be like, what were those MTV things in the ring? With
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
We should hire somebody out to do a Soonerscoop.com Celebrity Deathmatch
Claymation
of Jim Gallagly and David Boren.
That'd be amazing.
See Murdoch at Soonerscoop.com if you're a claymation person.
I know. Come on.
We'll see what we can do.
Do we stick with Mills Davis as the ref, or do we
Mills Lane. Come on.
Mills
Josh.
Lane? That's all right.
We could probably. I mean, JR would have to be involved somehow. He could do the commentating, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing. This is coming together nicely.
You know, I did say though.
Yes, I know what you said because it was with me.
I said it with Bob. David Boren's office would want to be in charge of all the physicals for that.
And
I
where-
thought I would take the worst shot of this conversation, but nope, somebody went further.
It's
Pretty funny, though.
There's a lot of silence out of Carey right now. I can't figure out what that's about.
I'm just letting Eddie be Eddie.
Who's going to be Eddie in the other podcast wars?
Can't do.
Yeah, there's no matching Eddie.
They probably won't.
Here's what I do know: Josh will do each one of those podcasts, though.
Yeah, he'll be represent. Well,
Josh will do anybody's podcast.
I'll do any podcast,
You
man.
will.
Put our name, because
I don't know if I like that either. If you're not getting the tone.
no, I'm good with it. Okay. We can either be part of that podcast and get some publicity out of it, or that podcast will exist anyways, and we get nothing from it.
No, I agree.
No, I mean, look, we do the podcast for publicity. I mean,
Sure.
that was our plan from the beginning. It's worked great. So we're continue to do. Thanks to advertisers, we're allowed to do that. So
Who we love.
And we're equally loved and hated.
and our language does not, diminish our love for your advertising support.
Again, it's 2019. I think everybody knows how people talk.
And without getting us too into that whole thing, I think people would be surprised if they knew some of the advertisers that come to us. Because, there are people that I would think would be scared of that, like the way we do talk. There are a lot of very down-the-middle people that are more than happy to advertise.
Or they used to be.
Until Eddie.
Until this one.
Until he went crazy. Until Bob. God damn it.
What?
Bob. Bob's always shaming us.
That's what I do.
At what age will you start taking your daughter to football games with you? Like on Friday nights? Like I would assume the wife.
Let's try like a month.
The wife would bring.
I want Bob out there with like the
the baby
baby
Bjorn.
wear.
the daddy can't.
Yep.
What is that? What do you call those?
The baby Bjorn. Is that what you're doing?
I have no idea. What's a baby Bjorn?
It's the thing. It's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Eddie. It's what you strap onto your chest and the baby sits there.
There's
Okay,
different
yeah.
brand names, yeah.
Yeah,
Hell, I
but
want-
Baby Bjorn's one of them.
I just want to carry things around if I have that.
Eddie's going to buy one, have his camera in it.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Is that a baby? No, it's
That's a
Sony.
camera.
It's a Canon.
It's kind of like a baby. Some would argue more valuable.
All right, I think we've exhausted
Who would argue that?
everything that we need to exhaust.
Sane cameraman.
today.
Just so we can say for the record, Linda left a little while ago and it was a little uncomfortable. She waved, but I'm not sure it was a friendly wave or if it was I'm leaving, asshole.
She probably wanted to know if she was going to be surrounded by ice as she tried to get into her car.
Linda, her name
Looking at that
legitimately,
headset, I was probably oh God, this guy's insane.
her name is Linda. I can definitely say that. The reason there's two of them is her daughter is I think she's late middle school, early high school, and she helps her during the summers. So that's the only reason there's two today.
So she has a daughter named Linda too?
No, I don't know what her daughter's name is. That's one of those bridges. I don't want to ask because her daughter speaks very if anybody understood what I was saying, it was her
Wait
daughter.
a minute. So you admit
Oh, so what we said was true.
you admit Linda doesn't speak very well.
I absolutely admit that. I was not going to admit that where her daughter could hear me. Because they're literally one room over. I couldn't see them, but I knew where they were.
You are in Houston. I can't imagine that there is a shortage of cleaning services for people that don't speak English very well.
Oh, there's not a lot of Caitlin's cleaning services here. Just be real about it.
What is the maid one? Something
Here in Oklahoma?
There's Molly Maids, Mary Maids.
What's that one that
I
they
think
come
it's
over
Mary
and they
Maids.
do it and for every $1 you give them, they take item of clothing off. Have you ever heard of that?
No, do you have a number, Eddie?
I'll DM you.
Okay. Hi, Tiff.
All right, let's get the hell out of here before this thing gets us canceled for good. Or, just gets
We'll do the
just gets
canceling.
people picketing, which happens from time to time. All right. So thanks to Josh for all the great coverage on the barbecue. And, the rest of us are ready to gear it up for you guys. Fall camp, open it up on Saturday. We'll be down there to talk to Lincoln Riley. and you've got Fan Appreciation Day coming up on Friday. So steal some kids, get down there and get some autographs. Just make sure, at least get a helmet if you're going to steal a kid to sign. You know, I like that one guy that had that helmet chair that one year. I think
remember that.
Sam was there that year, I think.
It's always an interesting afternoon. Meet the Sooners Day.
And now we're not a part of it because we're too busy writing because the media
We'd go
comes
first.
Right.
Yeah.
Where before, that was initially the first part, and so we would
I'll be down there getting some
watch.
pictures of Jalen Hurts' line and see what other lines. I would imagine CeeDee Lamb's line will be pretty big, too. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you guys back here next week on Soonerscoop.com podcast. Thanks for listening to the Unofficial 40.